Welcome to Run Club. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone is doing well. If you're wondering what in the world was sitting up in front of the camera, I can tell you that it's a book. It's called How Bad Do You Want It? And in honor of us talking today to Lane about the mental side of the sport, I've read a number of books that are intended to talk about the mental side. This is my favorite. So check that one out. There's several others out there that address that, but this one in particular is really, really good. How Bad Do You Want It? It's by Matt Fitzgerald. So check that out. We have, it looks like, fixed the technical difficulties that we had last week. If you've been with us for a couple of weeks, then you know that we had some technical difficulties, and hopefully we've got all of that resolved and everything's going well. So welcome. We're glad you're here. I don't know if you're like me, but every day I come out, I don't know if my eyes look swollen from where you're sitting, but my goodness, the allergies are terrible around here this time of year. So eyes are all itchy. Maybe some of you are experiencing the same thing. And in this era of social distancing, it's a little people probably want to stay away from me because I looks like there's something wrong with me. I want to mention always that if you'll notice up in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, it says J Radio, and that is our sponsor. And always want to mention J Radio. It's a great music platform. If you're looking for a good place where the whole family can go to listen to music, if you're looking for a place to listen to music and stream music while you're running, there are different playlists on there. So go check out J Radio when you get a chance. Let's talk about what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover a couple of the stories that if you listen to the podcast or you watch the YouTube, we're going to cover those stories, just a little bit about those. Remember last week we talked about the long run. Well, this week it's going to be so much fun because this week we're going to have a special guest. That special guest is Lane Hollis. Lane is a nationally ranked triathlete. So he's a great runner, but he's also a great swimmer and a great cyclist. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. And I think you'll enjoy that conversation. I also wanted to mention to you, I've heard from a lot of you about the 100K challenge. The idea is to try to run 100K in the month of April. Some of you are more than halfway there already. Obviously maybe that's not a lofty enough goal. Maybe we'll make it 200 next month. I don't know, but keep working at it. Some of you are just right on pace. So keep working and you're going to get there. We'll work together and encourage each other until we get there. If you remember, we had two different stories that we talked about on the podcast. And the first one was called Don't Give Up by a lady by the name of Corey from Kentucky. And it was a very interesting story about how she was faced with one problem after another in this marathon. And it was really, really difficult to get through that marathon because of all the different things that went wrong. But she made it. And that was the key. And I think that really relates to today because things are tough right now with everything going on, the uncertainty that's going on. It's tough. So I remember there's times when you're in a moment and you can decide how to react to those things. You could decide to react positively or you can decide to react negatively. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes with Lane. But I remember a race one time where I was racing against a guy. I had raced against him a number of times. I'd never beaten him, but I had been close. And I remember being in a 10K and being at 4 miles, and I would look ahead and I could see him, and I would count the number of seconds I was behind him, and I thought, it's now or never. And I didn't even know what I was going to do if I caught him, but I was going to give it everything I had in that 5th mile to try to catch him. And then whatever I had left for the 6th mile, I didn't think I would have anything left, but I was going to hope that just the energy of the situation carried me through. Well, that 5th mile wound up being my fastest mile of that race, which is unusual in a 10K. And I never caught him, but I was so glad that I tried. And I was so glad that I was able to look at that situation on the positive side of, hey, what the heck? I got nothing to lose. Let me try it. And sometimes I think we're in that boat now where we're faced with how are we going to look at things? And we can look at them positively or negatively. Let's look at the positive side. We got more time to run. I really like that part. I've gotten in a lot of extra miles lately. The other thing we talked about was steeplechase, and we talked about where that term came from, and it's a track race. And if you've heard that story, it originated with church steeples. That's why it's called the steeplechase. And it originated with horses. And anyway, the idea is that the steeple was the guiding force behind the original steeplechase. And we related that to our walk with Christ and how we are to stay focused on Jesus because that's our ultimate finish line. And I think about that now. We've got all these obstacles in our way. We can't do things we want to do. We can't attend things we want to attend. We can't be in groups and do the things we want to do right now. But if we'll keep our eyes focused where they should be spiritually, all that other stuff will just fly right by us. We won't hardly notice it's there if our eyes are focused in the right direction. So just a word of encouragement there. So I'm going to bring on Lane. Hopefully this thing works, and talk a little bit about Lane here. So let's see if we can get Lane up. Aha, look at there. Hey, Lane.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So for you guys that don't know what Lane does, Lane races. He's race age 17, right, Lane?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Race age 17. The reason we say race age in triathlon is because your age is based on what your age is at the end of the year, not right now. And so Lane is race age 17, but he's actual age 16. So, right?
Oh, wait,
right?
No, that's wrong.
Yep.
That's wrong.
The other way around.
I'm 17 and I'm race age 18.
Race age 18.
I haven't raced any this year.
I'm 1 year off.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the draft legal triathlons that they do, a lot of you guys have probably seen the Ironman triathlon on television, and you've seen how that goes. And you notice that there's no drafting allowed. You've probably seen where when they pass somebody, if they get in somebody's slipstream, they have to go around them, and that's part of the Ironman. Well, Lane's race is completely opposite of that. There's an advantage to drafting, and that's why you can't do it in Ironman. But in Lane's race, you actually work strategically to do that. And so the idea is if you don't swim well in draft legal triathlon, then you don't finish well. Whereas I'm a terrible swimmer and I've done really well at the longer triathlons because I can make up for it on the bike and the run. Well, if you got people drafting in front of you on the bike, you can't make up for anything, can you, Lane?
No, you cannot.
So Lane is the number 2 ranked triathlete right now in the 16 to 19 age group for in the United States, which is very impressive. And so if you think about that, that means that the Olympics that'll be coming up, Lane is one of those guys who has a legitimate shot at possibly being an Olympian one day. So Lane, tell us what that feels like.
It feels pretty good. It's always been a dream, but now it's, less of a dream and more of a reality. Still a dream, but more of a reality. And it feels really good to have an actual, legitimate shot at going to the Olympics. And the people that, is in it are just great. Everyone is going for that one goal. And so it's great to have a friend group who's all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and you guys come from all over the country, but when you get together, you're all just best friends, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool community. It's a lot like the triathlon community, especially in this draft legal community, is a lot like the running community. When you go to a local road race and you've got all these people around that you only see on the weekends, but they're friends. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about pain. We said we were going to talk about pain. And so obviously when we when we race, pain is a real part of racing and trying to get through that pain, because our body is telling us you need to slow down. So Lane, from your perspective, and now understand in a triathlon, everybody, that in these triathlons, they last an hour or so. And this is an hour of intense. I mean, it is as intense as a 5K for a full hour, right?
Yeah.
And even more so at some points of the race. So it takes a lot of taking that pain that you experience and putting that to the back of your mind. So how do you do that, Lane?
Yeah. So dealing with pain on a race day is much different than as opposed to a workout, in the sense that there's stress and pressure, which can also cause more pain. But the general pain on race day, I mean, it's you you train in such an intense case scenario to where you try to make the race easier than you train. And um and so I guess managing pain on race day is a bit easier than in practice, because I mean, you have adrenaline pumping, you have people around you that are just as fast as you, but it's still very difficult and you have to stay very focused, and that's hard to do for a straight hour.
It's easy to go out too hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's
Yeah.
sort of like, for anybody out there who's run a half marathon or a marathon, it's sort of like, you train all this time, that day comes and you go out and you realize I feel really good that first little bit, and then you got to be careful, don't you?
Yeah.
In the triathlon
Yeah.
world, don't they a lot of times they relate that to matches, right? A book of matches. You have a book of matches to burn during that race.
Yeah, you only have a certain amount of matches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The idea is to get through with 0 matches.
True. Yes.
So you mentioned training. It is harder in training because if you don't train hard, then the race day results aren't going to be as good. So how do you get up for all those workouts? I was with you on the track this morning, and you were doing a workout that was pretty darn tough. How do you get up for those?
Yeah, so like I said, it's very different, because racing is, I don't want to say easier, but it's easier in the sense that you have other people there with you, and it's race day, and so you have adrenaline pumping, and so it's easier in that sense. But during training, there is none of that. There's no prize at the end. There's no people around you um, that are really, I mean, these are kids coming from all across the country, and so they don't all, come to Dalton, Georgia to run with me on the track. But and so that you don't have all those people, and you don't have the adrenaline of a race day. But I will say, though, it is easier in the sense that there is not the stress. There's not the stress. You're working towards the race. You're not at the race, and so it's different kinds of managing pain. But I would definitely say that managing pain in a workout is harder, just because the factors that help you manage it better in a race are just not there. So
Yeah, and I so can identify with that. And I've made the comments before about training, about how sometimes, like I'll do a lot of workouts on my own, and it's amazing how much better I feel when somebody walks over and is at the track, just watching you.
yeah,
The fact people are watching makes a difference, doesn't it?
yeah, it really does. I mean, even just one or two people that you may
Mm-hmm.
not even know
Yeah,
um, can make a difference. Even if you do know them, it can make more of a difference.
yeah.
So
But try. What about, there's those days where, and we all have them. I have them. You have them. We all have them,
yeah,
where it is just, it's like pulling teeth trying to get up and go out and run or ride or whatever it is you have to do that day. How do you get up for those days where you just don't feel like it?
yeah. So those days are. I mean, they're absolute. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They're awful. They're absolutely horrible. But I mean, my dad used to tell me when I was younger that, I mean, when you get done with a run, you never regret it. I mean, sometimes you may not want to go out for a run, but when you get done for a run, you never regret that run. And also, I mean, during school, when I have to get up for swim, and the 4:30 alarm clock goes off, it's not that I don't, I don't want to get up. It's not that I don't want to get faster. And so sometimes you have to think of it as what you really want. And if you think of it as what you really want, sometimes it can be easier because most of the time it's not that you don't want to get faster. It's just that you don't want to go through, getting up, or if you're just having a bad day. Usually starting the workout is the hardest thing on an off day.
And I've said this before, and I know what your answer is before I ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you ever gotten up at that 4:30 and gone to that workout, and then afterwards went, "Oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that"?
No, never.
No, we're always glad we did it, right?
Yeah.
It's just getting the guts to get up and go do it. So
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I always think, and you know what we say? We say the pain of regret is worse than the pain of the workout.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of times, if I go out the door and I'm going to go, let's say I'm going to go out and I want to run 8 miles, and I get to feeling bad and I want to cut that run short. A lot of times, that's what I think. Is I think when I get home, if I only run 6 and I get home, I'm going to be mad at myself. I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mad at myself. So
yeah, it's a lot better to hurt for 14 more minutes than be mad at yourself for the rest of the day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there's okay. So that's how you get out there. That's kind of the way you do that. Now, last week, let me say this. I read a book recently. It's called Endure by Alex Hutchinson, and he talks about in that book how he was a 1,500-meter runner, and at one time, he was trying to break 4 minutes for the 1,500 meters, which is pretty fast, but it's not world class fast. But he was stuck, and he worked and he worked and he worked and he worked, and he couldn't get over that hump and break 4 minutes. And then all of a sudden, in one race, something weird happened. He was running an indoor race, and they gave him the wrong splits, and he thought that he was running faster than he was. He didn't find out until afterwards that his splits were wrong. But in the moment, he thought he was running faster than he was. And he wound up running 3:53 for that 1,500 meters, because his brain tricked him into thinking that he was doing something that he wasn't even really doing. And so sometimes that's what it takes for a breakthrough, right? For somebody to break through. And it turns out after that, he got a lot faster after that. Last week before last, whenever it was, you did a time trial on track where you ran a big PR, and you had a moment like that in that workout where you had a choice to make, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And what do you remember? What was that choice?
I could. It was with 1 mile to go, and I was the lap that I had done before the 1 mile to go mark. I was a bit off, and so I mean, I guess the two choices were mail it in for the day or keep going, try to bring it down. So.
Yep. And you actually ran 10 seconds faster than what your goal was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big day. I do remember somebody telling you that you only had a certain amount of time on that last lap, but you really had longer than that. But
yeah.
So let me ask this: you've had this breakthrough, and I think there's going to be, and I'm sure it's going to lead to more. But tell everybody out there. Maybe there's somebody out there tonight they're struggling with trying to break through. They've worked really hard, and they just haven't seen the improvement. What advice do you have for that person?
So the advice is I ran the PR, which was 15:49. I was at 16:08 though for almost a year. I ran 16:08 last July, so that's a long time.
Mhm.
And I guess what I would say is if you have legitimate training, like if you have legitimate training, things that you're doing that you know have worked before, stick to those because even though it can seem monotonous at times, not questioning Dean here, but even though it can seem monotonous at times, it does eventually work, and the big breakthroughs feel really good. I mean, the steady climb is like a big part to getting faster in the run. But if you ever do plateau off, but you're still working hard and you're doing the things that you've done before to make you faster, then you're probably going to have a big breakthrough soon. So,
Yeah, absolutely. You got to trust in the process, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions for Lane. I did see one question, and so we'll ask this one. Tell everybody out there what a typical training week looks like for you.
So, like going throughout the week,
Yeah, let's just
um,
go through a week and say, here's what I would do in a typical week.
okay, so if we start with Sunday, Sunday is usually a 2+ hour bike. If it's an easy week, it's a 2 hour bike. If it's a strength week, hard week, and I'm riding with some of the groups, it can be upwards of 3.5 hours. And that's all I do for that day. Come home and get
That's all.
recovered.
Just 3.5 hours of riding.
and
Yeah.
and so Monday, Monday is a swim, lift, and run day. And so in school, I have swim 5:45 to 7:45. As of right now, I'm not in school, so I get to sleep a lot later. So that's nice. But usually try to get a 2 hour swim. All the pools are closed, so I'm swimming in lakes right now. And some sort of 30 to 45 minute lifting session, and then a hard run practice, which is usually hour and 15 minutes. Uh, Coached by Dean. So and then Tuesdays is a lifting session, another 30 to 45 minute lifting session. And then Tuesday bike is a workout. So it's a bike workout as opposed to just those long rides. And then Wednesday's kind of my day off because I'm not biking or running. And those are the two hardest things on your body to me. And so it's just I swim Wednesday morning. Wait, no, I used to swim. Um, Wednesday is just lifting, just a 30 to 45 minute lifting session, trying to get recovered throughout the day. And so that's kind of my off day. And then Thursday, I swim again and then lift middle day and then run in the afternoon. It's another workout, that hour and 15 minute. And Friday, if I'm in school, then it's usually swim in the mornings, lift, and then swim in the afternoons. But as of right now, I am swimming on Wednesdays, and not doing two swims on Fridays. I'm swimming Friday morning, lifting midday, and then bike workout in the afternoon. And then Saturday is long run day. So usually anywhere between an hour on an easy week to an hour and 20 on a hard week, long run. And then go home and take ice baths and stretch and
Yeah.
try to get ready for Sunday.
Yeah. So, I want everybody, and Lane would never tell you this on his own, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Um, Tell everybody out there because Lane is in high school, and those of you who have been in high school, which is I'm sure just about everybody out there knows that what Lane just described is a lot of work. And it's a lot of time, and probably a lot more time than most of us ever spent doing anything when we were in high school. Lane does a lot of other extracurricular stuff too. But Lane, tell him what your grade point average is.
I think it's 3.9 something.
It's way up there.
I think it's
It's way up there.
yeah.
Lane's a great student too. So he takes, and this is what we talk about all the time with running, is when you do one thing excellent, it bleeds over into other things. And so Lane is not just an excellent athlete, but he carries that over to the other things that he does. Somebody had asked the question, do you do any strength training? But you just mentioned how many times a week you do some.
Yeah.
So that's good. Let me ask you this, Lane. Tell me what your toughest swim workout has been, what your toughest bike workout has been, and what your toughest run workout has been.
So I know what my hardest swim workout was, and it's been within the past year, and it was a Saturday swim, and we warmed up, and then we did 30 times 100 yards. And so 100 yards is like a regular lap swimming pool. It's 4 laps, so down and back twice. So we did 30 of those on the first 5. It's going to get kind of complicated, but the first 5 were on 1:30 starts, which means I start every minute and 30 seconds.
And how long does it take for you to do a rep? About a minute, right?
So for the first 5, it's about 1:07, 1 minute 7 seconds.
So you got 20 seconds rest.
Yeah, roughly. And then so the second 5 is 1:25, and third is 1:20, fourth is 1:15, and then the fifth and sixth are 1:10. And I'm trying to end up around 1:04 to 1:05 actual swim time by the end. That was definitely my hardest swim workout I've ever done, because you can have a hard workout, but if you don't take it seriously and don't focus on your times, it doesn't always have to be hard. And so that one I did pretty good in, and so that was definitely my hardest one.
I can't even swim 100 meters in less than a minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it takes swimming.
What about the bike?
Yeah. Okay, so the bike, probably there's this infamous workout that every triathlete does, and I do not like it. If I'm being completely honest, I really do not like it. It is 2 by 20 minutes at what we call FTP power. So I have a power meter on my bike that basically measures how hard I'm pushing down on the pedals. And FTP is basically 95% of like all out for 20 minutes. So it's basically whatever I can do all out for 20 minutes. We take 95% of that, and then we do that twice for 20 minutes. And so
and I have been there for those, and oh my gosh, I mean it's 20 minutes of just burying yourself.
Yeah, it really is.
If I say only a runner, I don't want that to sound like I'm slighting runners, obviously, because that's who I am. But if you're a runner, you don't understand that, because you can't run like that. There's not an equivalent to the run. It's a tough workout.
Yeah, it really is.
What about your run workout?
So my run workouts are weird because I feel like I have a hardest one every 3 months. But
so that's thinking.
I did one. I say I did one. I didn't hit it. I didn't do the time that I was supposed to. But there was one a couple weeks ago that could have been, that probably, if I would have hit it, would have been the hardest one I've ever done, and it was 6 miles at 5:36 per mile pace, and that one was very, very hard. Needless to say, I did not finish that. I did not finish the workout.
But I know you, and I know that eventually you will conquer that workout.
Yeah. If it wasn't that one though, there's another one we do, and it's 3 miles at that same pace. It was actually a little bit slower. It's like a 5:40. 3 miles at 5:40, and then at my high school we have a huge hill right beside it, and we have to do 10 of those hills all out, and then we do 3 more miles at 5:40 pace, and that one's also really difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Well, another question that somebody has, did you ever have an issue with panicking in your open water swim?
When I was yes, I think everyone does. When I was younger, obviously it was just the sheer fear of, the Loch Ness monster eating my feet. But I actually have had in the past couple years, in these big triathlons, it's so crowded in the water, and sometimes you can get straight up, punched in the face and stuff. And if your goggles get shoved in your eye when you're trying to go all out, that can send you into a panic. And so,
Yeah.
a couple of years that actually happened to me in a race down in Florida. And so,
Wow.
but
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Like I said, I've done these long triathlons, and in the swim, what I do is if anybody touches me, I stop and I let them pass me, and then I go swimming again. So I would never make it in what you do. Somebody just said you must consume a bazillion calories a day. You got to eat a pretty good bit just to keep enough,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah. I mean, it's not even trying to eat a lot. It's just that I'm always hungry. Like I'm always hungry.
That's what happens when you do that, when you do what you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Uh, Shut up, Natasha. Somebody's telling their experiences of sprint triathlon. Uh, Somebody's asking, how do you calm yourself when you do get to that point where you start to freak out? We've talked a lot about that recently.
Yeah. So when you get to the point where you feel like, because I mean, we all know the point when we're running and you feel like your heart is just like about to explode. Like you really do feel like you can't go any farther.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what helps me, and it helped me on the track this morning, is, and I don't know if this is the best way to go about it, but I think sometimes, like when I'm on the track and I'm really, really hurting, I have to think to myself, like you're not going to die. Like I mean, it's that sounds very simple, and I don't know if it's the best way to describe it, but sometimes that's how I think about it. Like I mean, you're trying to get better, and you're not going to die to go that hard. And so sometimes that's how I think about it, is that there's literally no consequence to going harder.
Yeah,
Even if it hurts, I mean, that's the only consequence, but um, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is who can hurt more.
yeah. Well, and in the end, the more you hurt, the better you feel about your workout afterwards, too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've got a girl on the college team who's got a shirt, and she said that her mother bought it with me in mind. And it says on the shirt, it says, but did you die?
Yeah, I mean, that's
No,
that's
you
very
didn't
true.
die. So
Yeah.
somebody else asked, how did you get started doing triathlons, and why did you get started to begin with?
So I got started. My dad was a triathlete long before I was, and when I was 5, race age 6, because race age 6 is where you can start. That's when I did my first one, and it was just kind of for fun. I mean, I did not even. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I like doggy paddled to swim or something, and maybe walked part of the run. But yeah, he got me. I mean, he got me started. I mean, I kind of liked it, and I kept doing more and more. I was deeply into baseball though up until I was 8 or 9 though, and so I was playing baseball and trying to do triathlons. I guess it wasn't until I was 11 or 12 when I was really like, man, I like this, and then it wasn't until I was 15 years old or something where I was like, man, I'm really gonna like try to go all the way with this. So I started when I was 6, but there's a few different stages um, of how much I liked it. How
Yeah.
much I wanted to commit to it.
Well, we'll let this finish it off. From a spiritual standpoint, I know you. I know a lot of times, we pray before we do our workouts and things, and a lot of times you're the guy that volunteers to do that. You're a spiritual leader. I could tell story after story where you've had an impact on those around you. So from a spiritual standpoint, how does is there a particular scripture or something that comes to mind that drives you, or just tell me about how you feel about what you do from a spiritual side.
Yeah. So, obviously with what I do, there's a lot of, and don't get me wrong, I love, Hebrews 12:1 and Philippians 4:13. And with what I do, there's a lot of pain and like suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not true pain and true suffering. And so sometimes, I mean, you can think of one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and my parents still think I'm crazy because I mean, a lot of people just think this story is like boring, but I love the book of Job. Job is really good for me. I mean, he did not. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, yet he went through all of this pain, and he took every bit of it. And I mean, he, he never cursed anyone but himself. And so, I guess that's a really good one for this pain managing topic. I mean, we all go through pain running, but he went through some pretty serious stuff. So, the book of Job is really good. I like that.
That's a great observation, and absolutely, that's yeah. For anybody out there who hasn't really read the book of Job, read the book of Job. It's heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time, and I think that's what you're talking about from a running standpoint. Running is hard,
Yeah.
but there's also a reward if you can handle that difficult part of it. So.
Yeah.
Lane, we so appreciate you showing up tonight and joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I'm glad folks have got a chance to kind of get to know a little bit more about who you are. Some folks have seen you kind of with pictures on Facebook and stuff, but a lot of people haven't heard you talk. And so we appreciate you sharing your heart with us tonight.
Yeah.
So we hope everybody out there has had a good time and took at least something from something that Lane said today or something that we talked about today. And so from here on out, all we want you to do is to go out there and shine your light wherever you are. We know that right now there's quarantines and things, and you can't get out the door and do a whole lot, but you can shine your light from your own house if that's what it takes. Y'all have a good night.
See y'all.